He needs it.
I am the Tinkerbell of poetry. The louder you clap, the more money you spend, the more real I am.
With better legs.
Yeah. Well, we do know each other a little too much. I'm sorry you had to see that. This is called Abandoned Hotel. The mouse, like a child's heart in its cage of ribs, has a nest somewhere at the heart of an old concert piano with lots of stories to tell in the lobby of an old abandoned hotel where a man sits in an overstuffed chair ripping pages from a phone book, hoping they will help him find what he has spent so many years of his life looking for. Meanwhile, many miles away from the hotel, a woman wanders through a dark, dense forest of whispering trees and strange gray birds, wearing her mother's mourning dress, humming a sad old folk tune of lost innocence. Just got brighter.
It's like that movie Underworld. You're just sucking in energy.
That's right, that's what I do. Energy sucking mass. Never much to tell. Midnight is just now striking after waiting hours for the perfect opportunity. And they say the night has a million shining cat's eyes, but never much to tell. Nothing that would stand up in a court of law, that is. Nothing that would hold up under questioning. Mostly just a bunch of old spook stories, hearsay, and unreliable witness accounts. The illusion of movement. Walking late at night, I came to a cemetery with the statue of a horse for a headstone. An apparition that had been caught and frozen in some moment of regal innocence and beauty under the light of a moon that had just then come out from behind a bank of clouds, bestowing the illusion of movement with its majestic beams of silver blue upon what must have once been the lord of all horses. Somewhere, a peacock shrieked. Which I can tell you is a creepy-ass thing to hear at night when walking in a graveyard. Why, sir, are you walking in a graveyard at night? That's a several thing discussion. Some kind of metaphor for something. Kind of like that toy from back when we were kids that was nothing really but a coil of cheap metal spring that could stroll around seemingly under its own power, down a flight of stairs or a ladder, or from hand to hand of someone easily bemused by distractions like this. A toddler, maybe. But just as likely, a teenage girl stoned out of her gourd down in her parents' basement. The toys, some kind of metaphor for something, I guess. Too many poems about. So far, I'm just not convinced that there is such a thing as too many poems about stars, meteors, satellites, the moon, spy satellites and or UFOs crossing night skies above a world teeming with streetlights, headlights, porch lights, Christmas lights left up year-round, fireflies, cigarettes, sparks and embers from backyard barbecues, any or all of it rendered earnestly, again and again for us to ooh and ah at each time. Hauling ass. A long, empty road taking us away from our past lives of only a few hours ago, and the sinking sun in the rearview mirror like a burning ship, pulling the whole sky down with it into the briny deep of night, leaving us a wall of black clouds dead ahead, cracked here and there with slivers of lightning above a train that's hauling ass along the dark edge of the world. this. Old chairs in a circle where the moon seems to stop in its nightly patrol across the sky for just a few extra moments and stare down at the epicenter of this improvised amphitheater, where in the past on a night like this, there would have been some kind of congregation gathered here to witness, admire, and worship in each their own way. That is, until they gave it up for glowing screens and gossip. Insert emoji. Swampland. I just always thought that everybody had at least one Gordian knot of angst and near crippling regret somewhere close to the center of the haunted wonderland funhouse maze of themselves. That not tightly wound, bound up little package, safely tucked away from the day-to-day intrusions of the outside world, containing the restless ghost of that mutant offspring born of the unholy union of the mother of all misunderstandings and the paterfamilias of all bad decisions. That XY foci of coordinates for the origin of that which begat that, which begat that, which begat that, and now here you are, marooned in your own private and seemingly endless swampland of the psyche. So now what, smart guy? I had to put a little footnote at the bottom of this. In physics, the term swampland refers to effective low-energy physical theories, which are not compatible with string theory. Physical theories which are compatible are called landscape. Recent developments in string theory suggest that the string theory landscape of false vacua is vast. This has very little to do with the poem. I don't know if anybody reads it. This and or that. Gusts of dead leaves like ghosts who just can't lie still and go to sleep. An otherwise well-dressed man without his shoes asking people for advice as to the local cuisine. Every television everywhere tuned to a channel where the soap operas are overflowing, with every emotion, every radio tuned to the latest breaking news about this and or that. The dead that remain unavenged. It takes disco balls to snort crank off the swirled horn of a pink unicorn, while the ghosts of Che Guevara and Bob Marley give you the big purple-fisted thumbs up, and the flaming skulls of the dead that remain unavenged provide a chorus of multiphonic singing, while clacking their bones and pistons to keep time as golden sunflowers begin to fall. You know what that was about, really? This is about a girl I was enthralled with in the 7th grade. Fashion statement. 3D glasses and a pork pie hat was a bold fashion statement for a junior high school kid to make in small town Kansas in the mid-'80s. And she listened to the Kennedys, and she listened to the Ramones, the Misfits, Bad Brains, Agent Orange, and she wore combat boots and a black leather jacket, had a switchblade knife, and just couldn't give a rat's ass. This dour fear, she's a Republican suburbanite wife now, but we're gonna leave that one alone.
She's probably dead.
Or dead.
I mean, you were the 7th grade a long time ago.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't say a long time.
Well, I don't know about that.
Wasn't that long ago? Come on.
Beer bottle crooner. One more beer bottle crooner singing along with the stereo on the back porch long after the party is over and the bonfires died down. When the cops finally roll up with their own pretty disco boogie good time party lights going, but no sirens or guns drawn, thank God. Just a calm, cool tone from an open window. Hey Glenn, what you rocking out to? Just a little Ronnie James Dio, officer. Party's over, Glenn. Yep, party's over. Go to bed, Glenn. Yep, going to bed now, boss. No, just no. Excerpts of the Great American Dream. A blood-orange sun has risen this morning from the steaming mountain of a compost heap in the backyard, and a sharp breath of November wind is slipping in through a window, left cracked open through the night, wherein I went to bed a standard issue privileged white male, but woke up a butterfly in the inner eye of a hurricane, only to wake again, for real this time, I'm sure, staring up at the network of cracks in the ceiling, feeling for some reason like a gas-bloated body rising to the placid glass-like surface of a pond on a posh country club golf course, somewhere in the exurbs of the Great American Dream. Neither side likely to concede. Two cows in the middle of a country road, just standing there gnawing on clumps of grass, it seems, looking at us like a couple of bold-ass trespassers daring to dare roll up on their turf, unannounced, to desecrate their sacred bovine grazing grounds, which doesn't quite explain why they're standing in the middle of this road, sand and gravel, staring at us as we, in turn, stare back at them. And it's hotter than Satan's crotch out here, and neither side likely to concede soon. This is what you get for not being prepared, but hey, it's all right. I'm enjoying each other's company. What you guys want to do this Saturday night? Look at me, it's still up here. Yeah. Something like normal. An old tree limb cracking somewhere out there in the deep wood somehow intensifies the sharp power of the stars. The darkness between them and all around us, and the stillness and silence that always follows until we are startled by the next rude intrusion, be it a cow bellowing in the distance or whippoorwill call, and everything settles on back down to something like normal, whatever that is. Thank you. Do you want to spray it down like the strippers do when they switch? Okay.
Jason, you were amazing. I'm being disingenuous. You were.
I believed that though.
Yeah. Man, no. Thank you for reading. And that poem about the girl, I think that's a really interesting poem. It's a good poem.
It's got a person in it.
It does. You don't really write about people, as I've been told.
It's deep and wounded.
But all right. Before I do this introduction, Murray, I'm going to ask you: do you want to sit in one of these chairs up here?
Yeah, probably.
I brought you an extra chair if you want to sit in that one, or you're welcome to use the stool. All right. I was first introduced to Murray and Murray's work by my in around 2004 or 2005 by my friends S.A. Griffin and Lake Scott Longberg. And then I got to know Murray better later on. We would run into each other for years in Sacramento whenever I would read out there. So when I was putting together readers for this year, Murray had actually contacted me before I started on that list, because I told him a year ago, if you ever come through this way, let me know. And that's how this reading happened. But so when I started putting together the list, he was on it. So it's my I'm sincerely happy to have Murray Thomas here with us today. And I just want to welcome him up. He's had a rough start to the day. So everyone, give him a round of applause. I'll tell you what, one time before I did a reading, I fell down the metal patio steps of a bar, and I broke my arm and twisted my ankle. And I had to have two girls hold me up, but I read. So sometimes that stuff happens, but at least in my case, I was extremely high. So there was that. But it takes a lot of courage to go through some pain and not be on some serious drugs. And I'm grateful to you, Murray. And it's awesome to have you here. And I'm excited to hear you read. And you guys are about to hear some great poems. Murray Thomas, thank you guys.
Yeah, well, speaking of getting hurt, this one is called I Don't Need Tattoos, I Have Scars. 1, they permanently mark your skin. A friend gave me a therapeutic massage. Before she started, she gave me a diagram of the body and asked me to mark all my scars. I have so many, I forgot a few. What about this one, she asked, pointing to my arm. When she was done, she said, with all the trauma your body has been through, I don't understand why you aren't in constant pain. 2, they hurt when you get them. I was extremely hungover the day I trained the new cook to cut steaks. I placed a hunk of meat on the cutting board, took out my knife. The first thing you do, I instructed, is cut like this and sliced open my hand. Well, I amended, maybe not exactly like that. 3, the best ones have great stories behind them. They finally caught the guy who ran me down and left me in the snowbank with a broken leg when he got divorced. It was an ugly divorce. Ooh, said his soon-to-be ex-wife, do I have some dirt on you? 4, they fade with time. I can barely find that knife mark on my hand now. The settlement was spent long ago. I told my friend, it helps to tell the stories. This is one of those stories. It's called Pain. The greatest thing I ever felt was pain. One particular pain, ragged in my leg, welcomed in my mind, coming as it did after the thump of fender and a flight through darkness. Inward I called, Roger, I'm coming to join you. Roger being a friend who had died a month previous in almost identical circumstances. A blizzard, a stalled car, headlights raging down the hidden highway. But then I lay in the snow and my leg hurt with overwhelming pain. And I screamed for joy, because pain was life. But nothing lasts, and pain quickly became pain and stayed pain, while the ambulance crawled through the snow and the doctors prepped and the nurses shot me repeatedly with ineffective morphine. Until finally they shot sodium pentothal, and I welcomed the oblivion flowing up my arm. Your kidney just arrived at LAX, the doctor told me as I lay in pre-op prep. I envisioned a special chartered flight, an entire airplane filled with organs, hearts with little heart-shaped carry-ons. They always watch the in-flight movie and cry all the way through. Livers splurging on one last drink, they don't think they'll be allowed where they're going. The lungs eye the spot where the oxygen masks drop. Corneas stare out at the passing countryside. They always get a window seat. The gallbladder always gets in line before his road is calling. The spleens are always complaining about security, about the length of flight, about the lack of leg room, even though they have no legs. And there's my kidney, probably reading a book to pass the time, something classic. As I lay dying, or Great Expectations, or The Stranger, all of them wondering about the journey ahead, about their new home, about their new life. Where I'm supposed to be. Okay. So this is my new book, Living the Sundown, about caring for my parents, both of whom had dementia. So, now it's mostly prose, based on blog posts I did, but it does have poetry in it, and one of the things it has is haiku scattered throughout it. And I realized that if I read a selection of the haiku, it's like the Reader's Digest condensed version of the story. So that's what you're going to get here. My mother reads through warning signs of Alzheimer's one more time. Hospital courtyard, reflections in warped windows, dementia patients. Yellow newspaper, half-finished Sudoku, frozen lake. Yesterday, glowing gold and neon pink orange. Today, leaves all blown away. Landscape sketches, her artistic incarnation buried in a notebook. Sitting on a screened-in porch with aging parents, each watching our own sunsets. Even the declining sunlight creates autumn brilliance. Vultures soar over the field for 3 days, home hospice care. She wants to go home, but home is not a where, it's a when. The final words were, if you ignore yes and no, beautiful blue sky. A scarf she knitted, I can see those colors around her neck, now in a thrift store. Scattering ashes combined in a metal can, together again. Spring mud creates new growth in the cemetery. The day his doctor told my father he shouldn't drive anymore, there were suddenly so many errands to run. I ran into the mailbox and delivered his newspaper late. There were so many errands to run, but snow piled deep in the driveway and the snowplow was late. The mail never came. The snow piled high against the walls. My mother argued with her caregiver, then read the same letter over and over. The turkeys ran wild in the yard. My mother argued with her caregiver because she said she didn't need a caregiver. Later, they watched the turkeys run wild and the starlings battle at the bird feeder. My mother said she didn't need her walker. My father, mystified by the remote, missed his favorite show. The bird feeder became a TV. My mother almost fell down. My father was mystified that he couldn't drive anymore. I fell asleep and drove my car into a ditch. This one's called Waiting Room. The silence is a forest of bare trees. A gray sky hovers near the ceiling. Through the glass, snow covers the car, the deck, the hillside. Or is that just a memory? There's no child to play in it, only photographs. A couple skiing, the hunt for a Christmas tree, 6-foot drifts from a blizzard. There are so many photographs. Photo albums dominate the bookshelves, filled with people I no longer recognize. The ghosts of those still present sit with me. We wait for the bodies to arrive. My father was a big bird watcher, even though it lost its charm for him at a certain point. But they used to visit me in California, where I lived in Long Beach, and there's a nature reserve called Bolsa Chica in Huntington Beach, which is next door, and it's famous for the birds. So they would, almost every time they came out, they would make at least one trip to a Bolsa Chica. Now, this poem is about someone else. It's not about them, but I thought it was fitting, and in fact, I read it at my father's memorial. To birds, time is a circle. The day comes around again, the same pattern of light, the same cycle of fish, fly, sleep. The year loops, and the western grebe, the pintail duck, and the coot return to the wetlands. To humans, time is a line, like the solid silver horizon. It starts by the shore over there, and ends with the poet's final fading breath this sunny morning. To the water, time is a vibration, the ebb and flow of its tides, mere ripples on its eternal shimmering surface. The ocean spreads out infinite before us, the pelicans soar over it, the human watch. And to the spirit, does it know that eternal surface? Does it know a space outside of time? A space where eternity is not just all time, but no time at all. The birds circle, the ocean shimmers. I walk straight back to my car. Let me see what else. Here's one about my mother that I read at her memorial. It's called Fairy Rings. Young feet do not notice a small blue mushroom in the middle of the trail, trampled into the dirt as we rush off to swim, to climb, to the other hurried pleasures of 10 years old. My mother, trailing behind us, mushroom book in hand, stops, scans from the broken fungus to the woods around, calls us back. Points out another mushroom beside the trail, and another. A ring of mushrooms in the woods. A fairy ring, she calls it. After the rain, she explains, this mushroom, Lactarius indigo, sprouts in a perfect pale blue circle. In this way, she introduces us to the wonders which lie underfoot and just off the trail. She cannot halt our rush to play, to grow, to the future. But after this, at that bend in the trail, we will slow down, if just for a moment. I'm feeling so helpless today, my God.
Thank you, Mark. Really much appreciate you being here. Really enjoy the reading. I'm gonna go through this open mic list. Normally we would take a break right now, but the list is not huge, so I'm gonna go through it and do that. Is there anyone else who wants to be on it who is not on it? All right. I'm going to start with this guy just because I'm going to make fun of him a little bit, and that is my nature. So I posted a list of the upcoming readings, and Max made a comment about what time are the readings. And so, because I don't think we're friends on Facebook, I was like, who the hell is this guy? I don't even know who he is. But now that I see you, I know exactly who you are. Like, yeah. Just putting you on the spot, because that is my way. But you and I met many times. Sure. And so with that, I'd just like to welcome up Max. And thank you for being here. It's good to see you here. And please come back. Thank you.
Joss and I decided that unless you're going to break this pact immediately, that we only read our new stuff in Rolla, so you've got to come to Rolla to hear the new stuff. So here's some old stuff. This one's called Scream in the Car with Me. Scream in the car with me. Just scream in the car with me. Scream. It's the sound of every fact simultaneously. Scream. It's the sum of everything said and unsaid. Scream. It's the only thing to do when the one who decides the truth decides to leave so much of it aside. Scream. It's the only thing to do when the one who fights the truth is heard despite every lie. Scream. It's the sound of the final essential fact left when this is all over. Scream. It is the final essential fact left when this is all over. Scream in the car with me. It's all there is to do. Scream to leap out of your body. Scream to hold on to your body. Scream because there will be other times yet to whisper, to sing, to laugh, and even to be silent. Oh yes, many other times. But for this moment, before we spend the remnant of the day trying to find a better way to remember it, scream in the car with me. Let's scream.
Well, Max, you are welcome to bring your crusty old poems back here anytime.
Based on a true story.
I've not heard a lot of your old poems, so they're new to me. So there it is. No, we really appreciate folks here, really appreciate new folks here. That's great. So, all right. So I am gonna welcome up. It is a hard choice. Next up, I'm gonna welcome up Brenda.
The first one I'm going to read is called The Marine. It was a silent walk through the Art Deco district on South Beach. mild and warm. Few businesses were open. The hurricane left a dank smell. I thought he was kidding when he asked, "Do you want to get a tattoo?" But I said, "No, that's okay." Tattoos are like road maps to Marines. After that, he seemed lost as to what to say. The empty streets led to the beachfront. A flattened beach ball, seaweed hanging like tinsel, wet socks, soggy mattresses. We turned back. "Where are you going next?" I asked. "I think back to Louisiana." "Oh, okay." I glanced at his arms. The next one's called The Greatest Generation. I doubt my father ever drank a latte. Computers were the size of a small room. Old Spice, pencil shavings, and here's Johnny. He did own a microwave, but I never saw him use it. No crocheted Afghans or cushiony toilet seats. Politics were argued face to face and not behind pixels. Senior trips to the city, tomatoes, newspapers, and crippled hands that gripped a golf club. My father took his coffee black. This one's from my latest book. Me, with my fists on my hips, spying on a parakeet through a front glass window, gazing into a home at a small green emerald bird. She opened the cage to show the bird could fly. It flew furiously around the room. And when she opened the screen door, it brushed by my face. The boy on the horse pulled on the reins, and we watched the green bird fly away. This one's called On Her Way Home. A brown woman stood at the crossroads in Puerto Rico, umbrella in one hand and a bag with a handle in the other. She was waiting to cross, waiting for it to be safe, waiting for the bus. The old bus hissed and creaked to a stop. She caught the driver's eye, and a faint glimpse of recognition passed between the two. In the warm mist, there were clouds, and it was windy. She looked tired as she sunk into a familiar seat, now relieved and comfortable and on her way home. This last one's waiting for the elevator. Waiting for the elevator, thinking how awkward it can be riding with a stranger, especially when it is just a man and a woman alone. I like this old elevator. I've taken it many times. The antique brass fixtures, deep burgundy carpet, and crystal lights. My attention is on the gentleman who is riding with me, though. He makes absolutely no eye contact, aloof. He's a man of the collar, so I relax somewhat. "What church do you represent?" A long pause, and I become confused, expecting a friendly response. This man, however, seems cold and distant, almost annoyed. He responds reserved yet firmly, "Serbian Orthodox." His voice deep and defensive. I nod. He seems more intense and has assumed I must have no idea where Serbia is or what Orthodox means. He then proclaims with pride and a hint of defense, "You know, like Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox." I nod. He steps off the elevator and makes eye contact. "Serbia is a nation, you know." I nod. My thoughts are racing. Would it have been different if he would have known that my great-grandfather Joseph was born in Serbia? I say nothing.
her tennis shoes, which looked exactly like the kind my grandma used to get.
Oh.
And so, but what she would do, what it made me think of, is she would buy like 52 pairs,
Oh.
one for every week, all at the same time, because she walked like 5 miles a day, and once a week she would just throw away her tennis shoes from that week, and then she'd
No.
switch into a new pair. And
Huh.
she used to keep them like in the hall closet. There'd be like a stack of shoes, but they look exactly like the shoes you have on.
Oh, I love these. Thank you for sharing.
No, that's a nice memory.
Oh,
Like,
no, it's great.
as OCD as she was, it's just something I hadn't thought about in a while. But, alright. And with that, I am gonna welcome up Agnes.
Thank you. Today is International Women's Day, and I'm going to read a poem from the Eden of Perhaps, Song for the Woman I Want to Become. She paints her life in bold brush strokes, pomegranate love, obsidian pain. She is not afraid to start over. She won't let herself be silenced. She owns her stage and shouts her truth. Her songs come from the heart and the gut. She dived in deep wells, clawed her way back to the surface, and emerged filled with compassion. She carries her scars with dignity and faces her demons with courage. She is resilient as water. She can no longer be tamed. She bursts her banks like the river, flowing and flooding, fierce and fearless. She is honest as the ocean, loyal as the sunrise, and I love her. It seems possible. This is from my new collection, Love Song to Gravity, that is in the works, thanks to Jason. So soon. It seems possible. I am distracted by the unfolding of spring on this first day of Lent. Resurrection is in the air. Green shoots push through soil. We push aside the unease, hope we get off without paying the ransom. The mourning doves coo in the cedar where they nested last year. Unload wood, stack it in the shed. Later, I sit in silence, watch a hawk circle over the field, hear a flock of geese too high to see. It seems possible to bear anything. This title needs an explanation. Pisanki that's a Ukrainian technique for decorating eggs. So the eggs are, it's a wax resist technique. So the eggs are, you draw the pattern in wax, and then the eggs are dyed, and then where the pattern was, that is wherever the wax was, that's where the pattern emerges. And so it's a very intricate traditional technique. Pisanki. The rain left the daffodils bedraggled. The deer ate the plump buds of the tulips. On the soggy ground, a broken promise of robin song, the blue shell of an egg. I can reproduce the miracle of yeast each week, comforting familiar moves. In a world out of control, I sift flour, measure sugar, slowly separate eggs. Some thoughts must be handled carefully, as if they might crack under your probing. Set them aside where they're undisturbed, no pressure. They're fragile like blown eggs. This year my mind is not on greening. I have not prepared for Easter, have not cut the hazel branches. I can never find the box with my grandmother's wooden eggs. Dip the stylus in molten beeswax and write invisible symbols on the shell, spells or silent cries for help. Only after dying they will appear on the egg. Recipe for Mom's Easter bread. Divide the dough into 3 strands, braid them. If you cannot get the ends to join seamlessly, hide the flaw under a dyed egg. And this is my last one, and this is a new one, and it is entitled Things to Learn. How to handle the chaos. The news that makes me wake in cold sweat, filled with dread, fight or flight muscles so tight, jaw clenched with anger and fear. How to not hold contempt for the folks who've been sold fake news for truth, told a bundle of bullshit, fed a diet of lies, who misled, were willing to sacrifice what we held sacred so long for a siren song. How to live with the folks who now wail as their safety nets fail. That was not what they meant when they sent Trump to the White House, who now squirm like a louse when they hear you voted for this. How to march into a perilous future, how to suture your heart together with dental floss, how to stop grieving the loss, the dream for a better world, how not to remain curled in the fetal position, how to find your mission, how to start a new garden, how to speak as long as you're free to say what you think, how not to sink into apathy, how to plant a tree, cook a soup, feed a neighbor, how to labor for hope, how to stand up straight, how not to hate. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for reading those. Those poems are great. Okay. And we gotta bring up Ken. See you, sir. Thank you. I know this carpet is a bit treacherous.
I want to start by reading another poet. Nancy Jo Allen, she's from Columbia. In fact, her husband Terry is also a poet. Celestial distance. Last night, poems circled my brain. Planets around my sun. Light years away and lacking hope of a safe landing or exploration. Too many. Too sad. Close as Mars, the planet of war. Close as Venus, the planet of love. And I, in my bed, lay somewhere in between. So that's Nancy Jo. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote this week. My mother's birthday. If she was still here, she would be 91. A love shared. Your love and care evident is always in a photo more than 7 decades old. Your eyes lighting a gray March day as you hold me swaddled against the freezing mist of a roaring cataract. Another with my delight at holding a knife, my small hand braced by yours as we slice into a cake made from scratch to celebrate birthdays nearly shared. My arrival 6 hours before midnight, the only difference. The ease with which you could bring a smile to the face of the love of your life. Proof that you were meant for each other, that love spilling over and embracing us as we looked up to you. Family gathered in a house filled with the warmth of a holiday meal, from a bird roasted to perfection to desserts made with loving care, your recipe for love shared. During years of living alone in a quiet sorrow, the delight you expressed at holiday gatherings in your home, your recipe for a love shared, always the cornerstone. That home left behind when a simple life became too complicated and roles were reversed. A son's simple act of lifting you from the bathtub after a fall, a sign of his love for you. Long after you are gone, the one thing always on my mind, when I celebrate my birthday, how you showed me how to appreciate a love shared. I wasn't going to read that, but I don't know if I can make my way through it, but I did. All right, my health is not as bad as these make it sound, but man, this last year has been freaking annoying. This precipice, standing on the edge, not a transition, a delineation. This matter of health taken for granted, even with minor setbacks. Considering how minor suddenly becomes major in a body that weathered past storms. Recovery, not the challenge it has become in an old age that may have come gradually, but announced itself with a sudden urgency. This precipice, never once considered in younger years. Pissed at all this medical shit rolling downhill as I go downhill, never getting ahead. So, I got that. Thank you. And then one random riff. Random riffs are coming out soon. I think I may have read this in January, but I just got an email saying it's going to be in As It Ought to Be for March.
Oh, that's
So cool.
That's very
Yeah.
cool.
After the rain, piano opens with a crash, trails off to reveal percussion and bass lying just below it. A friend is gone, and the moment is empty. Revealing the sax like a lament, holding the hope that left with him. An icy shore scoured by bitter winter winds holds no memories. Piano comes forward as if holding light after a storm, and the sax takes a lighter tone. Come the spring rain, voice and thoughts once lost will return. The symbol's last sound is a gentle parting as a sax and piano trail off, as if Coltrane knows it will be all right. And of course, I enjoy both poets. It's nice to meet a new poet. No, thank you.
Well, Ken, I know it's been a rough time, but you look about as good as you did prior to all the problems. It's good to see you
Thank you.
looking so good. I know it's been rough because we've all had a rough time. All right. Just because John thinks I always called him up last year, we call him up right now. I'm gonna do it to spite you. John Clayton, get up.
You won't just
One
sit
of these
that-
chairs.
Well, I'm going to sit on my walker.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's a good chair.
It works great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Ken and I especially started reading stuff from other people. And the first one I want to do tonight is some of you may not know him. He was here for a while. His name was Chigger. Well, his real name was Matthew Haynes, but he called himself Chigger Matthews.
I called him that once as a joke, and he just adopted it.
It's a pretty good writer's name, I guess.
Well, we were in a car with someone that had got bitten up by chiggers.
This piece is called Abend Sie Papieren. It's German. I don't know how to pronounce German, but anyway, it's supposed to mean papers, please. The Nazis aren't coming for your papers. They learned written words can't be trusted. So if you think they'll ask first and shoot later, you probably don't belong on this train. We're going to the front. Bloody Sunday is the longest time of the year somewhere. And I thought I would do a poem about Bloody Sunday, and I remember taking this picture of my late wife with the Edmund Pettus Bridge in the background. And if you've never been to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, you should go, because it's kind of a spiritual place. Kind of like the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. I think they're just both spiritual. Anyway, as it turns out, this poem is not about civil rights or the bridge. It's about my wife. But you get to sit through it. I have to read these once in a while. I've known this girl for quite a while. Together, we've walked many a mile. We were young way back in time. Now we're old, but doing just fine. We've had our ups and we've had our downs. Love really doesn't have any bounds. They say love travels on a gravel road. We just saddle up and bear the load. I remember a time when I thought she was fine, not noticing that very bright mind. Her intellect has definitely grown over time, and with that power, she tries to keep me alive. Good luck with that, love of mine. Here's to you, I'll lift my stein. I've always loved her, now I like her too. If you're nice to her, she'll be nice to you. At the corner of her eye, there may be a wrinkle, but look at those blue eyes, do they ever twinkle? Yes, her hair's gray, and I love that girl more every day. Thank you.
I was gonna ask you, when was that picture taken of Dawn?
Oh, probably 7 or 8 years ago. The Edmund Pettus Bridge is someplace that my soul has to go occasionally. And I have to walk across the bridge, even though anymore it takes me quite a while.
That's all right.
Pardon?
That's all right. We need to slow down.
Well, we do, and there's a boaters museum at the other side, the other end of the bridge. It's kind of cool, actually. At least I think it is. We used to do things like drive to Monroeville, Louisiana, through the back roads to, to eat oysters at a picnic table in a city park or something. We did a lot of things. This piece is a new piece. It hasn't marinated yet, so bear with me on it. They're doing a project which Ken and I were just talking about called, what is the Watermelon Seed Project?
Yes.
Where Sharon Singing Moon Phelps is asking people to contribute poems about Palestinian children to put it in an anthology which will be sold to help support the kids. This is what I may submit, maybe not. It's called It's in the Reflections. I see the reflection of the explosion in her 6-year-old eyes. The flash followed by cloud smoke and dust. Only then can I hear the boom. That exaggerated lag in time, the speed of light really is faster than the speed of sound. With the flash of light, she closed her eyes. The reflection in them was gone. Turning away did not block the sound, did not keep the ground from shaking, did not keep her from feeling the wind caused by a bomb falling on the hospital, did not keep the tears from rolling down her face or her shoulders from shaking the sobs. Our eyes locked as she turned to run for a hiding spot, clutching a plastic water bottle with a few watermelon seeds in it. I felt like I was drowning in the sorrow and grief in those eyes. This is not my first rodeo. I saw that same fear, sorrow, and grief in the eyes of a little boy at LZ Blackhawk 56 years ago. The F-105 came in low and was then gone. At first, I only saw a fireball, then a roar. The wind came next, and then the heat, and finally, the smell of gasoline. It did not smell like victory. It smelled like death, and terror, and sorrow, and grief. He had been selling cokes on Highway 19. He was not burned, but he was terrified. I've seen that look in the eyes of grown men, too. Those eyes are the eyes of old souls. He did not wail. Silent tears slipped down his malnourished face. Our eyes locked. Again, I had to look away to keep from drowning in his sorrow. I've always wondered if their nightmares are the same as mine. Thank you. Pardon?
Thank you, John. We'll have to go to the museum sometime. I'd like to actually check that out.
What they have in Pet's Ridge?
What's that?
What are you gonna check out?
The museum
Oh,
you're talking about. I'd like to check that out sometime. But, all right. With that, if there is no one else that wants to be added to this list, I am going to close it out with Jocelyn.
Thank you, and thank you all for such a lovely night. It's been a minute since I've been at an open mic with you folks, and I'm all sorts of nervous, and you're such lovely, lovely poets. So I've been trying to figure out which poems I'm going to choose, and so I've tried to kind of find the rhythm of what comes before me. So let's see how well I did. The first poem that I'm going to share with you is called At the Center of Chaos. At the center of chaos, when the dangers have crowded in, their language undecipherable, their meaning undiscernible, when flight has been constricted and my toes are dangling in the altitude and the earth is giving way under my heels, at the center of chaos, when I have fallen like a stone into myself, you take my hand under the table, interlace your fingers in mine, and I remember we are enjoying this party. Okay, so the next one, so we heard some haikus. I've written a tanka, and this one is called Roasted Chicken. I actually do have a follow-up to this that I'm going to be debuting at Poetry at the Pub. But this is my tanka, Roasted Chicken. A single woman should, from time to time, fill her home with the scent of roasted chicken and garlic, and invite a stranger in to suck the bones clean. Okay, last but not least. Okay, so this one is called Little Blocks of Cheese. I'm gonna have to guess for part of this because my phone is glitching just at like over a couple of words, so I might be making part of this up. Little blocks of cheese. Let there be little blocks of cheese when I die. For a moment, let orange geometry brighten the backdrops of black. For a moment, let the stink of cheddar snuff out sweet frankincense. For a moment, let the dairy melt upon your tongue as though you are not here because I have died. Let little blocks of cheese interrupt my wake, and we will pause eternity in the experience of a moment.
Jocelyn, as a single man, I want my home to smell like chicken as well, but I'm not inviting anyone in because I'm not going to share my chicken. So you were a nicer person than me. And also, you said that we are lovely. So which one of us is disingenuous, Jason? Come on. There is not a lovely person in this room. One of us. All right. With that, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here. We're going to be here again April 5th, which is a Saturday. This year, it's always going to be at 6 o'clock. In the past, I've occasionally done stuff also at 4 o'clock when we've had really big readings. And like I said, I plan to do a large reading in St. Louis, folks, which I hope to get like 20 people if they don't all kill each other with all of their infighting. But that still is going to be at 6 o'clock. It'll just make it easier. But April 5th, we will be back here with Saturday at 6 for Dean McClain and Chad Horn, who looks exactly like Rutger Hauer. But, all right, but like I said earlier, if anyone wants the full schedule, please either email me or you can hunt me down right now and I'll give you my email and just get in touch and I'll give you that. So I'm just going to thank Mark and Tony from Osage Arts Community for allowing us to use this lovely space. I want to thank Murray Thomas again for being here. I want to thank Jason for being here. Even though I see him every day and he thinks I don't enjoy it, I do. Every day is a delight, Jason. But, all right, well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. This is a fantastic way to kind of kick off the season for the year. So many, like, wonderful faces. And even though you were all, like, dark on the inside, I think you're all lovely in some way, really. No, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. There are books over there on that table that are Murray's and Jason's books. Please talk to the both of them. If you don't have money to buy books, talk to them anyway, because I know from experience when you do this stuff, a lot of times you feel really isolated, particularly when you're on the road and you want to talk to people. So please engage them in conversation, whether you buy books or not. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.